the unfolding of one's own nature is such a beautiful process. While it seems traumatic and turbulent, if you reflect back and see what all has happened in your life, which has brought you to this point where you have your current understanding, you will see that it could not have happened any other way. This unfolding in itself is beautiful. That's the only word that comes to my mind. However, in the moment when things are happening, they seem turbulent. So you see, life, the flow of life, unaltered and completely accepted the way it is the most potent teacher. And nature is a hard taskmaster. What we do is we try to bring our own concepts, our own teachings, and interfere with nature's work. However, that also is accepted because it happens as per the cosmic law. But again, when the movement of life is simply accepted for what it is, that brings a lot of peace. In fact, the learnings that happen through that flow of life, which are not personal learnings, the learning is never personal because the person by nature keeps repeating a pattern. The learning is always the witness, the higher, you can call it the higher awareness if you want to. The unaffected awareness of being, whose nature is pure knowing. And it is through that knowing that it is known. Not as an experience, not as an objective experience, but as a non-experience. But its nature is pure knowing. So there is no any other possibility, there is no other choice in that awareness. That is what Jiddu Krishnamurti said, that choiceless awareness. That is where the learning happens, true learning happens. Where all movements of mind is witnessed. The mind coming up with clever tricks, cunning tricks, right? I have spent my whole life chasing material, wealth, fame, money, relationships, this, that. Now let me try the spiritual path. This is what the mind says. But the mind is following the same pattern. The person is following the same pattern even in that. So the person says, I was material, I was unhappy. So now let me try spiritualism. That's a fascinating term, spiritualism. So it says, let me be spiritual. So, you wear fancy clothes, you put on the malas. It's all wonderful. You sit in meditation, you meditate for 3 hours, 4 hours, 10 hours a day. You do japa. And you say that my objective is to attain enlightenment now. But again, there is an objective. There is an aim, there is a goal. And the goal usually is, I want enlightenment. How will I get enlightenment? Then you are told that your gurus, that your masters, your guides, they will help you to achieve that goal. And there is a process which you have to follow. You have to do these many hours of meditation, you have to do the kriyas, you have to do this, that. All of the structure is laid out in front of you. And eventually there is a promise that once you do these steps, what you will experience is permanent bliss. However, that permanent bliss can only be experienced by you. There is no objective definition of that permanent bliss. And this is where the world of spiritual exploration becomes materialistic. Where the very basic thing, which is your being, the impersonal awareness of being is the I am, where that is lost. And there is an outward movement. I mean, when I say it is lost, it is just in the relative context, because you can never lose I am, because I am is the ground of all experiential awareness. Being is the ground of all experiential awareness. So it is never really lost as such. But there is an illusion that comes up which says, the mind, which says that now I have lost it. The mind believes that it is separate from that awareness. And then you are promised that once you do this sadhana, these practices, these methods, you will be able to live in that state of bliss 24/7 without being affected by life, any ups and downs of life. While I say it is possible to experience peace even during ups and downs of life, there is no such thing as a permanent state of bliss. The awareness of being, where everything begins, is itself that bliss that we seek. So, we are going round and round the world looking for objective experiences to deepen our understanding. We are going to the masters, we are going to the ashrams, we are going to the priests, we are reading the scriptures, we are listening to philosophy lectures, we are referring to quantum physics, science, and all that. We keep repeating a pattern. The ego, the person, the individual keeps repeating a pattern. So the individual is not capable of learning. Individual never learns anything. It just repeats the pattern over and over again. Now please pay attention to this. This is very important. When I say that I am sick of the world and I want to change myself, who is that is saying that? That is the ego telling itself to get rid of the ego. In other words, let me put it in Jiddu Krishnamurti's words. He says the image, me, is trying to modify itself to become a better image. But you see, every betterment is a state which is impermanent, transient. So you may achieve the highest of highs, you may achieve the most blissful states, but nothing can be retained permanently. And that is the basic understanding. Once that is accepted, the flow of life is accepted the way it is. And the mind at that point surrenders. Or let's say that the surrender happens and the mind gives up its sense of doership, trying to achieve an outcome. It says that I am essentially going to rest in my own essence, which is my being, where everything begins and ends. The being that is the substratum of all experiential awareness. So there is no point for me to look for happiness in the external world, in the objects, in the rituals, in the conformity. I am simply present here and now. And this, whatever is arising, this is simply, that simply is. There is nothing more to it. And Ramana Maharishi would say that you want to walk on earth, but you are scared that your feet will hurt. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to cover up the whole world with a leather covering. But it's much simpler to wear shoes. So rather than trying to change the world through your ideas and beliefs and philosophies, why not point the attention inwards? Why not let the mind rest in its own essence, which is the being, and allow the learning to happen? Simply witnessing what is, things the way they are happening. A learning comes which according to my opinion, Jiddu Krishnamurti called insight. Insight is different from knowledge. Knowledge still involves an element of time. It still involves an element of experience, which is again related to time. But the insight is spontaneous. It is instant. So it just brings an understanding, a deep understanding. And in my particular case, that understanding was that in duality, it is impossible to decouple happiness from unhappiness. No matter what you acquire, either materially or spiritually, what is acquired will always be lost. And that which is the most valuable is always present here as this. But we spend our whole lives chasing experiences. We think that experiences are drawing us, are giving us more knowledge, that they are giving us better insights into the world. And the me mind, the ego mind thinks that it is transforming, it is becoming better, useful, productive. And then it goes out and and gives the philosophies and says that this is the way things should be, this is the way things not should be, and the dogma and the meditation and everything is related to that. But you see what is happening. The me is making all of this movement because deep down it is scared to face itself for what it is. The mind is not willing to dive deep within to see what is going on. It is too scared. It is too feeble. And therefore it is caught up with limitations. Limitations of body, limitations of the world. It perceives the world as the only reality. It projects its own fantasy on the objects of experience. I can see an image in my dream and say that I dreamt of a particular deity. Could be Jesus, could be Krishna, could be Buddha. My mind will project what it wants to see. Because mind by nature wants its continuation. It wants to draw attention on itself. Oh, look at me, my story. I did this, I did that. I suffered horribly. My past, my childhood traumas, my shadow work, my this, my that. In all of this analysis, we are keeping the separate entity alive. We are keeping our separation with the awareness. And we are just going round and round the world trying to cover up the world with leather. But Maharishi says it's much easier to wear shoes. Just rest in your own essence and be. That's it. Nothing more. In that space of completely unaffected awareness, you will experience the deepest healings. That is where the energy blocks itself will begin to sort out. The primordial energy itself will begin to heal different parts of the body and mind structure. All your illusory structures will be dissolved in that, and ego will have no foundation. You see, ego survives on structures, I, me, mine. So these structures will begin to dissolve. Now it does not mean that is the end of the ego. What it means that the ego is restored to its most basic functional form, which is given to us by the source so that we can take care of this mind-body organism. So when we are hungry, we eat. How do we do that? Because it is the ego, the functional restorative ego, which tells us that you have to feed yourself in order to keep functioning. But then when the mind expands that, no, I want more, when that ego expands horizontally as the thinking mind, it says, no, I want more. I want the fancy food. I want to eat in a restaurant. I want to own a restaurant. I want this, I want that. And if I don't get that, I will be unhappy. My happiness depends on my relationships. My happiness depends on what I'm doing, my identifications, my religion, my philosophy, my group, my sect, whatever. It just goes on and on and on into endless analysis. This is to be seen, not by the person, but to be seen. Seen means awareness illuminating the content. Awareness which is being, the witness awareness, which is illuminating this entire content. In that space, in that restful space, you remain unaffected by what is happening. That is where the change happens. Whatever change is destined for you will happen in that. You may have noticed this, that when you are thinking, at some point the thinking cuts off. And you know at what point it cuts off. It cuts off precisely at that point where the awareness shows up. It just cuts. And you find yourself in relief. And you see this as an image that I was thinking and now the thinking is cut off. It is not that you have cut off the thinking through your effort. It is the source that has cut off that thinking through the witness awareness. You have witnessed your thought, and that in that witnessing, your thinking mind has subsided. Thinking mind is the ego mind. That is the troubling mind which creates separations, divisions, conflict, chaos. And being in the space of awareness of I am is the end of the thinking mind, because in that space the thinking mind simply cannot exist. That is the most, I don't want to use the word blissful, but restful state, so as to speak. Now, it does not mean that your thinking will stop. The thinking may still emerge, but every time your thinking emerges, you will notice that it gets cut off sooner and sooner as you learn to be with your own presence, with your own being. A point comes when even before the thought has arisen, the witnessing happens and you recognize that, oh, I was about to think this, but now it's irrelevant. So that energy just disperses. that heals the body, that heals the mind, that allows full circulation of energy in your entire body, and it brings a lot of peace. So this is something I wanted to share with you in this short video. I wish you all peace. Take care.